what is a freak-off. The freak-off essentially was something that Cassie said she learned about through Sean Combs about a year into their relationship. He described it as voyeurism.
He had everything to do with what she was wearing. She said she would buy outfits from sex shops and see which one he wanted her to wear. And then inside the actual hotel rooms, their apartments where the freak-offs took place, she said that Combs was in charge of lighting. It began with candles. It then moved to studio lighting.
They might say she's lying, but that's going to be a little hard to do with that video.
Diddy's family showed up again in court with a determined look at the start of the day, but his twin daughters, Jessie and Delilah, walked out of the courthouse looking downcast, barely saying a word to his mom, Janice, and sons, King and Justin, were there too, nobody smiling.
We need you to step to the side. Step to the side, please.
Look, you look cold. You just smile. How are you guys feeling? How do you feel today?
Step to the side, please. Watch out, watch out. Watch your butt.
Big great. How can you walk today? Congratulations at NYU, Chef. Give us a little space. Give us a little space. Give us a little space. Golden Nation.
Nice long, you smile. Nice. That's
Step to the side, please.
feel like we let guy being by his very stuff. Yeah.
Wait. Give us a little space.
Watch out.
Give us a little space, please.
Oh my.
Sorry about that. Give us a little space.
Here. Oh.
Chuck it in again. Guys.
Oh. Boss down down. When you die, he's burning it off your
Back up. Back up.
push you like I play got a white was right out of here. It's possible to not.
Hey, man, Sean, man, be good, bro.
Okay. Tell you.
Day 2 of Diddy's trial just wrapped up, and while the prosecutors had a strong day, it wasn't a total knockout. But something big did happen by the end of the day that could change everything.
The prosecution's star witness taking the stand, but it was more than that. It was how Cassie took that stand. You could hear a pin drop when those doors opened, and a visibly pregnant Cassie Ventura walking past a man she had not seen in 6.5 years. A man she says violently abused her for a decade. A man the prosecution said trafficked her. Well, she sat across from him, placed her overcoat behind her, turning her body slightly toward the jury, rubbing her pregnant belly throughout her testimony. Diddy, well, he was more fidgety than he was the day before. He was passing notes. He pushed himself away from the defense table and largely sat like that. They never seemed to make eye contact with one another, not even after she was crying about having loved him once and planning and participating in these freak-off sex parties because she feared him and she wanted to make him happy, but feeling worthless, feeling disgusting because she didn't want to do it. Now, with each moment, the testimony became more and more graphic. Her delivery, though, it never changed. It was, matter of fact, steady, calm. At times, she was even critical of herself, walking us all through how a 10-album record deal came over a 10-year period of abuse and sexual humiliation. And once you hear Cassie's testimony, you'll understand why the courtroom was so tense.
Let's break it down. Cassie Diddy's ex-girlfriend gave some intense testimony. She told the court that Diddy used to threaten her. He said if she didn't do what he wanted, he'd release private videos, what she called freak-off videos. Basically, they were graphic videos involving her and other people. And she said he used them to scare and control her.
What makes him unique, though?
Sure, but is that what he's doing? Is he running an entertainment and fashion industry, or is he running essentially a criminal organization?
By the way, we have a poll up right now. You can participate in it. Do you think Cassie Ventura was a victim or partner in this? Ready for this? 82%. Well, this doesn't make sense. 82% say yes. I don't know if that's yes to, I think we need clarification. 82% say victim or partner. We'll get a clarification on that.
By the way,
right now.
But that's my answer to that question.
Oh,
Was
okay.
she a victim or a
82%
partner?
say victim. 82% say victim. Maybe based on we're reporting on the testimony right now.
Yeah. I mean, I think she is a victim if the allegations are true, but also she is involved in some of the criminal act. I mean, she's getting those prostitutes, right? She's making payments to them, allegedly. She's having them come. So she's involved in some of the alleged criminal activity. And that's an interesting point that wouldn't just apply to her. Other people in his orbit might be some combination of victim and co-conspirator.
But you know what? That video changes everything, because the argument would be, what do you think happens if she says no?
Yeah.
What do you think happens if she says, I'm not in the mood for a freak-off tonight, I'm not gonna pay the dancer? That's what's gonna happen. That video is arguably the most important piece of evidence because it sets the stage when we're talking about coercion or force. Question from Angelina, how old was Cassie when they first started dating? I think she was 19 years old, so you're talking about a 17-year age difference. That's important. I think that's an important factor if you're talking about power and control, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The fact that he's older and obviously has much more power anyway.
Sherry Williams asks, what kind of time is Diddy facing if he's found guilty?
That's a huge deal because prosecutors are trying to prove Diddy used force or threats, also known as coercion and saying, do what I want or I'll leak this video sounds a lot like coercion. But the thing is, Cassie didn't say Diddy said do this or I'll release the video. She didn't connect the threat directly to her actions. If she had the case might be a slam dunk. So far, she hasn't closed that loop. It's still a little unclear. And that leaves the jury guessing. Still, the idea that he held that kind of power over her, that's not nothing. Not nothing we know. He did this to women before her, namely Kim Porter, who just so happens to have suspiciously died before allegedly writing a reveal on Diddy's dark side.
You see how Albie Short, he came out saying that Kim Porter's death needs to be looked into?
I think that Al being his ex-wife, he have every right, knowing about the stuff that came out about Diddy and what he was doing, you understand, what he has done in the past, and people have overlooked it. By him coming out and saying that he hoped that he could get her case reopened, there was a guy called John the Paperwork Party. They would put in an open petition to get Kim's case reopened. You understand what I'm saying? So I'll be sure doing this is showing that, you know, he still got love for Quincy's mother. He still want to find out the truth because allegedly Kim was fine the day before and the day of her death. And then now she found in the bed dead from pneumonia. That just don't sound right, bro. That don't sound right at all.
So you feel the same way about her death being suspect?
I don't think nobody in America thinks it's nothing suspicious about Kim's death, bro. If you are rich like that, you could, you know, Kim had, I think a net worth of like, what, 12 million a year or something like that? Kim could have called any doctor to come over and look at her. If she was that bad, you know, she could have called an ambulance or something like that. Everything is suspicious about her death, bro. And I don't think an autopsy was done on her. And if it was a half job.
You personally, right? What do you think happened to Kim Porter?
If I say something personal, bro, and my belief, and I put it on to the public, then I might be liable.
Now prosecutors had other testimony from Cassie that was disturbing. She described being humiliated and said she didn't want to be involved in these freak-offs at all. She even said she brought it up gently with Diddy because she didn't want to make him angry. That shows fear. But again, it's not just about how she felt. The jury needs to know what did he said or did to pressure her.
Alleged criminal enterprise and how, based on the opening statement from yesterday, he didn't just have staff who were helping him commit the crimes, but also covering them up. Just now, an update from court. Prosecutor asked Cassie Ventura, how would he keep tabs on you? To which she apparently responds, he didn't live far apart. We didn't live far apart. He'd send security to come find me or a trusted assistant. Like who? David James, Christina Coram, who we all know has been a central figure in this case. Maybe not the criminal case, but she's come up in lawsuits before. The prosecutor asks her, was your relationship exclusive? Ventura replies, no. If she's naming names like David James or Christina Coram, do they have to testify, you think?
I don't think they have to testify, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did. I would think this is all planned out, that she's going to indicate some people and then the prosecution is going to bring them in later in the trial to verify, right? one thing you really want to do with a witness like this, the defense is going to say that she's embellishing. They might say she's lying, but that's going to be a little hard to do with that video, right? They can't just say she's a liar, but they're going to say she's exaggerating, she's embellishing, they're painting it a certain way because of the case. So you have to bring in these corroborating witnesses and whatever other corroborating evidence you have to verify what it is she's saying. So it would be very useful, for example, if she says, yes, David James came around to check on me on behalf of Mr. Combs, and then David James takes the stand and says, yes, I did that.
Yeah.
Yeah, things got even more graphic, Cassie said. Did he or people he told to urinated on her during these freak-offs? The prosecutor asked, did you want that? And Cassie flat out said, no, it was disgusting. I choked. I didn't want anyone to do that. When asked why she didn't say no, she said it was obvious she didn't want it. But here's where the defense might push back. They could argue. Did you say no? Clearly, did he force you anyway? That's what the law cares about, proof of force or threats. And Cassie admitted she never clearly gave permission, but also didn't clearly say stop. That puts things in a gray area that the defense will try to use.
Interesting to see how they react and respond to the alleged victim, Cassie Ventura, because she is expecting her third child and is clearly pregnant. So how jurors will kind of see that or visually how they take that into consideration, we don't know, but really they're supposed to make sure that they stay fair and impartial and pay attention to the facts, which is something even the judge warned them about before they were official jurors.
Diddy maintains his innocence against all charges brought against him. Cassie, the prosecution's key witness in the case against the embattled mogul.
The defense acknowledged that the videos of alleged freak-offs will be shown, but that those videos, they said, didn't come from the government's investigation so much as it came directly from Cassie's phone, but they were essentially trying to raise doubt about why did she hold on to these videos, and again making this argument that this case is about love and infidelity and money. But the prosecution is saying, no, you will hear from witnesses that will tell you that they were abused, they were kicked, they were punched, they were coerced to taking drugs and to performing sex acts. So this is only the beginning.
The 38-year-old singer said to get emotional on the stand as the prosecution brought up this disturbing security footage CNN uncovered of Diddy beating Cassie in a hotel.
Many people have seen that 2016 video of Sean Combs assaulting his then girlfriend, Cassie Ventura. And the defense said, listen, what you witnessed was wrong. It was inhumane. It was horrible. But that was domestic violence, and they said that is not criminal enterprise, that is not racketeering. But both sides sort of making those compelling arguments and opening statements that for the prosecution, that he is guilty, for the defense obviously saying that he's not guilty of these crimes that he's alleged to have committed.
Cassie's husband, Alex Fine, stepping out in support against the defense's wishes. The judge ruling he'll have to leave should an alleged 2018 Cassie accuses Diddy of comes up after Diddy's lawyers noted they may call him as a witness, claiming he sent the rapper a threatening text over the alleged incident.
We know that according to previous hearings, she could be on that stand for 2 to 3 days.
Some jurors might think, come on, of course, she didn't want that. But others might say, where's the proof that Diddy made her do it against her will?
How were these freak-offs orchestrated?
So Cassie kind of walked the jury through what her role was in the freak-offs and how she said that Combs had choreographed them. He was the director in charge. And what she described was that these freak-offs lasted from 36 to 72 hours. The longest one, she said, lasted 4 days. And through that period, she said her role had evolved from initially Combs setting up the first one to then it becoming essentially her job. These freak-offs, she said, were occurring weekly. And what she was responsible for was finding these escorts, using Craigslist, some of these other escort services, helping them travel to certain locations from Miami to Ibiza, to New York, to LA, to Las Vegas. And that she worked with Combs's business travel people in order to move people around, saying that they would project that they were potential employers and getting them to move. But she said that he had everything to do with what she was wearing. She said she would buy outfits from sex shops and see which one he wanted her to wear. And then inside the actual hotel rooms, their apartments where the freak-offs took place, she said that Combs was in charge of lighting. It began with candles. It then moved to studio lighting, that he was directing how they moved from each action of each sexual act in these freak-offs, and even the amount of baby oil that they were wearing. She said that he wanted them to be glistening, and so he would often encourage them to put on more baby oil. And then the part of that testimony, she said, was that she had engaged and used numerous drugs, including ecstasy, GHB, ketamine, cocaine, marijuana, and the prosecution showed text messages where before a freak-off, she is texting Combs asking, which colored pill do I take from your Louis Vuitton med bag? And he directed her which one.
The jury could go either way now. Let's talk about domestic violence. Cassie said Diddy used to beat her badly. She once had to hide in a hotel for a week until her bruises faded. And we've all seen that video of him attacking her that was brutal, even Diddy's defense team admitted to the abuse. But here's the thing, this isn't a domestic violence case. It's about trafficking and coercion. So Diddy's team is saying basically, yeah, they fought. But it went both ways. They're even trying to show old stories where Cassie acted violently while high on weather. The jury buys that or not is another question.
That immediately, the moment she opened her mouth, you could see that Combs was listening intently to everything that she has to say, as well as those jurors. People know that she was that star witness, the key person in all of this. When you think about that civil suit that came out in 2023, that was settled the day after, she really is the person that connects all the dots. When you look at the indictment and you look at some of the charges, she's the one talking about the freak-offs and what was involved and how she had to act. The prosecution is asking her questions to show that she wasn't in control. She said that Sean Combs directed everything from what she had on to the lighting in the room to how she was supposed to interact with the person that she was having sex with. And again, just to reiterate what is a freak-off, the freak-off essentially was something that Cassie said she learned about through Sean Combs about a year into their relationship. He described it as voyeurism, wanting to watch her have sex with someone else. And she said that she did it because she was 22, 21, she was young, she didn't know any better, and that she wanted to please Sean Combs.
And at some point in time, she actually had said that she looked forward to the freak-offs. Why did Cassie express looking forward to these said freak-offs?
When the prosecution asked her, was there ever a time that you enjoyed the freak-offs? This is when Cassie got choked up and she said, I did, but only because I got to spend one-on-one time with Combs, and I really did love him.
And that is speaking to the psychological abuse in addition to the physical abuse that she potentially experienced as well.
She's definitely laying out someone who was young, who was influenced by wanting to have this record career. She signed a 10-album deal with Bad Boy Entertainment led by Sean Combs, and basically describes being enamored by Sean Combs, loving him, not knowing about certain things sexually, and him sort of telling her, teaching her about that. And what you hear is someone that was young and she even said, I was young, I was naive, I didn't know anything.
And what's interesting is that the prosecution wants to show one of the freak-off videos to the jury. The defense doesn't want the media to see it. And it's unclear how the judge will handle it. Will it be played in a closed courtroom or shown only to the jury? No one knows what's on the video exactly, whether it shows Diddy forcing anyone to do anything, but showing it could change the jury's view of Cassie right now. They see her in court pregnant and calm. If they see her in that old video, it might shift how they feel. Could be helpful or hurtful depending on what it shows. Experts believe the case is more nuanced than we previously thought.